Militarily, they really seem to be focusing on getting the three towns basically in the Donbass that they would like to get, which is Slovyansk, Kramatorsk, and Severodonetsk. So Severodonetsk is the easternmost town, which is now still under Ukrainian control, and it's getting a really pretty horrendous pounding at the moment.
Russian forces are trying to take the final Ukrainian towns in the Luhansk region as the war moves into its third month. Troops are focusing their efforts on a 75-mile stretch of territory in the Donbass, following failed attempts at securing Kyiv and Kharkiv. We're joined by Associate Fellow of the Russia and Eurasia programme at Chatham House, Samantha de Bendern. Samantha, good morning.
Good morning.
What can we observe about Russia's strategy then, and how it's evolved as we go into the third month of war?
Well, Russia's strategy seems to be, on the one hand, shrinking because, if you remember the first few weeks of the war, when they were scattered all over Ukraine and seemed to be making a dash for Kiev, and now they've been concentrating on the Donbass. Militarily, they really seem to be focusing on getting the three towns basically in the Donbass that they would like to get, which is Slovyansk, Kramatorsk, and Severodonetsk. So Severodonetsk is the easternmost town, which is now still under Ukrainian control, and it's getting a really pretty horrendous pounding at the moment. The Russians have been slowed down by their many failed attempts to cross a river in the area called the Severodonetsk River, and they have been throwing troops at the river that have been crossing and just being mowed down by the Ukrainians. And it reminds me a little bit of these old images we have of the First World War, when you have these trench commanders are telling their men to run over the top of the trenches and just get mowed down as soon as they arrive on the surface. And that's the impression that you're getting of the Russian strategy from a tactical point of view in the battlefield. However, they are also doing some strategically quite significant things in all the towns that they've occupied. So we're seeing this now in Mariupol. We've been seeing this in Kherson, which is another town in the south. They are going into a phase of rapid Russification. So, they're introducing the ruble. They haven't introduced it yet in Mariupol, as far as I know. They have in Kherson. They are making people speak Russian. In Mariupol, they are putting giant television screens all over the town and broadcasting Russian television as a way to sort of distract people from the absolute horrific destruction around them. And school children apparently have been told that there will be no holidays this summer because they will have to prepare for the Russian curriculum in September. These are the children who have survived the horrors of 3 months of siege of Mariupol, and now being told you will not have a holiday this summer because you have to get into shape for the Russian school curriculum. So they're Russifying these newly conquered territories, which, of course, when you think about the future potential peace negotiations, this will make Russian withdrawal from these territories all the more difficult. So they're not being incorporated formally into Russia yet, but Russia is clearly signaling we are here for the very long haul.
Just on some of those points, is it the Russian military that's imposing things like no school holidays, for example, and the imposition of the Russian curriculum? Perhaps it's beside the point, but I'm intrigued as to how the logistics of actually making that come to fruition works. If it's soldiers that are occupying towns and cities.
No, it's not. It's not soldiers. They are sort of putting in place their own administration. So, like in Kherson, you have a self-proclaimed new administration, which is Ukrainian nationals who are obeying the Russian line. In Mariupol, I don't know exactly how it's happening yet, but if it goes the same way Kherson is going, it will go by the sort of the creation of self-styled pro-Russian administrations that are receiving their instructions from Moscow.
I should observe, actually, that we're heading into month 4 of this war, and gosh, how time has passed. I just wonder how we can reflect on what has changed and indeed how protracted this may be. I noted one report that Russia's admitted for the first time, for example, that 115 National Guardsmen were sacked for refusing to fight in Ukraine. And it's just notable, isn't it, in terms of the messaging from a Russian military point of view, that is something that perhaps we would not have seen in the early stages of this war.
Well, actually, we saw some movements by the National Guards in the very early stages of the war, in what would be rather comical if it wasn't so tragic, when 12 National Guardsmen from Krasnodar, which is southern Russia, refused to go to Ukraine, and they said, well, we can't go to Ukraine, we don't have any passports, we need a foreign passport, and we didn't want to break the law. So it was obviously a very sarcastic response, but their lawyer used this in their defense when because they went to a lawyer and said, listen, we're this is against international law to travel without a passport, and they were actually given a reprieve. But so there are a lot of there's a lot of noise coming out of Russia on also people refusing to serve and self-mutilation of Russian soldiers. There are more worrying trends, however, where men are being called up for sort of I would call fake mobilization. They're sent paperwork which has on top of the letterhead, mobilization decree number blah blah blah, which is a referral to an old law, and they get to their recruitment centres and they're told, oh, we just wanted to check that all your papers are in order. And by the way, if you want, you can go to Ukraine and we will give you lots of money. And a lot of these men don't actually know that they're legally allowed to refuse, because you can't mobilize people in peacetime. So a lot of them are being enrolled under false pretenses. Putin has also put up the age at which people can become not mobilized,
Conscripted?
made reservists
Oh, I see.
or volunteers in the army. So now people over 40 can go back and serve if they want to on a contractual basis. So there is a sort of hidden mobilization taking place in Russia right now.
It's really fascinating, Samantha. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us this morning. Samantha de Bendern, Associate Fellow of the Russia and Eurasia Programme at Chatham House.